today I would like to make a card that uses all these gorgeous colors of distress ink. I'm gonna be doing some watercoloring, and I would like to make a card that is similar to this one, which you probably saw if you're following my blog. But making this card was so much fun that I just wanted to show you how easily it's done. I was kind of afraid of watercoloring for a long time, but since I found out that distress inks can do this, I thought I'll share it with you, because maybe there's more people out there like me who are afraid of some techniques, and in this case it's super easy. And if you have already some of those distress inks and some stamps, doesn't have to be this particular one, you can go crazy and create something just as gorgeous. Alright? So I'll be using probably not all of those distress inks, but most of them, and I'll be telling you which color I'm using for each part of the flower. We'll be actually using Paper Smooches stamp set. I'll be using this flower and maybe this one and some small ones to fill out the page. And I'll be using VersaFine ink to stamp the images. So for this project I'll be using watercolor paper by Clairefontaine. It's a pretty thick watercolor paper, it's 300 GSM. And first of all, I'm gonna be doing some heat embossing, so I'm going over the surface with my embossing body, and I'll be stamping the images by Paper Smooches using my VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and then heat embossing it with my clear Paper Mania embossing powder. I'm going over the image with the ink, and then I'm gonna stamp it on the surface, and you'll see that the image is not perfect, but that's okay. What I usually do is that I go over already heat embossed image with my Staedtler black pen. It's a permanent marker, and it covers up all the lines that didn't stamp properly. You can also go over it with your like a pigment ink pen before you stamp the heat emboss the image. In that case, the embossing powder will stick to it, but it's not always the case, so I like to do it after it's heat embossed, because it's easier to cover up the areas where they were not stamped properly, like this one here in the corner of the flower. I'm using just a piece of printer paper to just not stamp the images all over my cutting board, because it's kind of hard to get off later. And you can see that later on when I pressed my stamps on this thick watercolor paper, they turn out much better, so you never know when it's gonna stamp not so perfectly. I mean, sometimes I press really hard and it turns out not so good, and some other time I don't press so hard and it stamps perfectly. So you just gotta feel your stamps, I suppose, and see how it turns out. So I'm gonna edit this part here a little bit, because I think it might be a little boring, and this video is pretty long as it is. So I'm gonna get to the part where I already heat embossed the image, and I'll start watercoloring. So since I love heat embossing and the effect it gives, I kind of left it out here for you, so you can see how it turns from this kind of grayish to beautiful black after I added the heat. So now you can see I'll be using either one of these two pens. The black one is the Staedtler permanent pen, and well, first I start off by using Artline pigment ink water-based water-resistant pen, and that is the one that you can put the clear embossing powder over it and it sticks to the area. So it's kind of better because then you have a coating over it, so it's just completely dry after embossing. Well, when you cover the area with your permanent marker after you heat emboss, it is still a little wet for a while. So it's up to you which one you pick. Now everything is heat embossed, I'm gonna start watercoloring. First of all, I'm using some pieces of acetate. It's actually some packaging acetate, where I'm gonna take my distress inks. The colors I'm using is crushed olive, Mont Lawn, and evergreen bow. And I'm just gonna spray a little bit of water on top of all these inks that I pressed against my acetate, and I'll start to color with the centers of the flowers using mustard seed yellow distress ink. And then I'll go on to the leaves, which I already showed you. The crushed olives is one of my favorite greens of distress inks after Mont Lawn, which was my first one, but now I found this crushed olives. Well, I don't know which one is my favorite. It's really gorgeous, kind of yellow green. You'll see when I get to the leaves how beautifully it blends with Mont Lawn and the evergreen bow, and you can create this gorgeous gradient effects on your leaves, which makes it really beautiful. That's why I love distress inks. They give such vibrant, amazing colors. And look at this, I'm just coloring the centers of the flowers and I already love it. I mean, actually, I was for a moment thinking that maybe I should leave it as it is, just with the centers of the flowers, and make it this black and white kind of card with just the accent of another color. I hope I don't talk too much in this video. At the beginning I decided to actually do the audio while I was creating the card, but it turned out to be about 50 minutes long. I don't think anyone would sit through it. So I had to speed up some parts, like coloring, for example, that took about 30 minutes. And so I'm talking to you all as in a voiceover, which I hope is not too bad. And as you can see, first I'm going on to the leaf with this crushed olive. I'm gonna mix it with Mont Lawn a little bit to get this a little darker color, but first layer is definitely crushed olive, and then I go over it with Mont Lawn with a little bit of evergreen bow for that beautiful gradient effect. You can see how it turns out later on when I have a picture of the card. And also another tip, when you're watercoloring, make sure that the next color you're using after like bright and then you go in with the dark, make sure the whole surface is wet while you're adding another color, because otherwise you'll get this thick line between both of them, because one already dried, and when the other dries on top of it, it creates this thick line. just zoomed in for you a little bit so you can see a little better maybe the gradient effects, and I'm adding more colors because I like how the leaves are more vibrant. Even though it's a watercolor, I like the colors to be distinct and vibrant. I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, it's really not so easy to actually go over the video again and talk and try to think about what to say, but I really would love, if you never tried this technique before, to try it out. It's super easy, and like I said, I was not really into watercoloring. I was kind of afraid that it's difficult and it looks so beautiful, but it's so I think it's, you know, I always thought you have to have so much skill, but I mean, in this case you really don't. You just layer those colors and it makes you look super skilled. And that's another thing, another reason why you should try it. You know, I mean, anybody who would receive this card, they'll think you're a genius. And you are, because look at this, it's just gorgeous. I'm sorry you have to constantly see my head. I am yet to master the magic of camera and how to not get my head into the frame and yet color. I am short-sighted, so I kind of have to get real close to the image. Even though I have contact lenses, I like to look at it from short distance. And I'm using a wet wipe just to wipe off the excess of the excess, just the ink. And now I'm going with ripe actually spice marmalade and then ripe persimmon, which is funny because I always thought that it was ripe parmesan for some reason, not Italian parmesan, but I thought it was the name of a flower, parmesan. But of course, after a while, I realized that I was reading it wrong all this time. Great. Thank God I did not talk to anyone about it, and I just shared it with all of you. That's nice. Anyway, I'm gonna color in those beautiful flowers using spice marmalade, and then I'm gonna dab on the ripe persimmon. As you can see, when you add too much, you just take your either tissue paper or a wet wipe and you can just suck that ink out in no time. Just always remember to add a lot of water on top of your colors, because then, like I said before, you'll get this nasty line between one color and another. And also another thing, I'm using just a little glass filled with water because I like to control the amount of water I have on my brush. And while I fill this paintbrush I have here with water, I found that it releases too much water while I'm painting. So when you're doing it on the little surfaces, it's kind of annoying. But when you're going over a big surface like a background, then I'm pretty sure it is a great help. I'll probably try that out soon. I'll let you know. Now I'm using festive berries for a few of the other flowers, and actually a little bit of a center of these big flowers I have here already for a little more contrast. for the purples, Dusty Concord and Seedless Preserves. I'll be filling out some other flowers. And here you can actually see that I'm mixing in the purples with a little bit of festive berries, and it gives that gorgeous mix of colors. It actually blends well together, the reds and purples. Some of you out there might be like, duh, the purple and the red, but I didn't know this. I mean, I never really worked with a medium that blends so well together. Just a little bit of water and you get this fabulous effect. So I was super excited when I actually mixed those in. Now for the shaded lilac for these other flowers. And I think I'll be using some worn lipstick for the last little bit of flowers, and then a salty ocean for the little flowers for the contrast that will give. You can see it later. Actually, another thing, you might already have noticed that around some areas I went over the line with the paint, with the ink. That is very easy to fix. You just take your white gel pen and you go over the areas where you went over the line. It is just as simple and it works perfectly. Nobody would ever know that you went over the line. Like I said before, worn lipstick for the smaller flowers. I love this color as well because it's this kind of deeper pink. I also have spun sugar, but that's a very, very bright pink. So I was going for vibrant colors here, so I decided on worn lipstick. I hope you like the effect. I mean, I am a big fan of colorful and vibrant, so I went nuts here. Some of you might think it's a little too much, but I really love it. I really love all these vibrant colors. Look at the gorgeous oranges, the red, and I mean it is a little more vibrant on the camera than it is in the reality, but it's very close. You can see it actually on the pictures. And of course, if you're not a big fan of such juicy, vibrant colors, you can always water them down. So just spray a little more water in your ink on your either a crafting mat or acetate, like I did, and it's gonna have a little softer look. Also, I didn't mention that before. The reason why I'm using acetate because I don't have a craft mat, which everybody's praising, and I'm sure it's amazing, but I just can't get myself to get it because it just costs. It's the cost of 3 ink pads. So or maybe even more if you are going after those little ones. So I would always buy more colors of distress ink instead of some tool that I can kind of substitute with a cheaper version. For the sentiment, I'm gonna go with a simple "Have a Lovely Day" from Paper Smooches Blossoming Buds stamp set. again, I'm gonna heat emboss it using VersaFine Onyx Black ink and then clear embossing powder from Paper Mania. And that is how the card front looks like after being heat embossed. Now I'm gonna use my Uniball Signo white gel pen to go over the areas where I crossed the line with my ink. For some reason I decided that I'm gonna go with a pink card base. I thought that would be nice to kind of bring out those little flowers that are you know, pink. I'm using my Tombow Mono multi glue, which is perfect, and the one I'm actually using here I bought in October and it still works. Sometimes I need to shake it a little longer, but it still works. It had tons of juice. I actually have to find out where I can get one more because I will be devastated when this one ends. And just so as you can see, I'm adding just a little bit of kind of thin foam tape at the back for a little bit dimension, and then afterwards a little bit of Winkostella for a little bit of sparkle. I mean, these are flowers, so I'm just adding a little bit of shimmer. So it's nice when you move it in the sun. As you can see, I was squeezing my Winkostella a little too much because I wanted a little more shimmer, and I got more shimmer, a little too much shimmer. That's no problem. You can just take it off with your wet wipe. It won't be visible on the card so much. Although I did take a little bit of color of that petal. I think I'll fix that later on. But yeah, I really love Winkostella. I think it's the best product out there for adding a little bit of shimmer to your cards. And you know, they come actually in all kinds of colors. So thank you so much for watching today. Thanks for visiting my channel. I hope you like the card, and I hope you get inspired, and maybe you're gonna try watercoloring thanks to this technique I showed you. And just let me know what else you would like to see. Maybe there's something on my blog that you liked, that you'd like to see me create. And these are the other two cards I also created using that technique. I really went crazy this week. I loved it. And you'll probably see more, you're gonna see me make more projects using that technique. Thank you so much once again, and have a great day. Bye!